Welcome to Building with Brick, foundational wisdom on coaching, careers, and Christ. This leadership podcast was spawned by Coach Brickner's book, So You Want to Be a Coach, which is the story of a corporate executive who made a drastic career change and became a head men's basketball coach. Dr. Brickner's book is available in paperback, ebook, and audiobook on Amazon.com, or go to his website, www.drjoebrickner.com. That's DRJOE Brickner.com. Now, here's this week's podcast. Welcome back, everybody. My guest, Richard Konzem, former Senior Associate Athletic Director at KU, spent many years there, wore many hats. Then he became athletic directors at Benedictine College and Rockhurst University. Now he's the golf coach at Rockhurst, finishing up his career. One of the questions that I had for Richard was how his faith has been involved with his career. And I want to get his comments on how he sees faith as far as in today's environment. It's so secular. Everything is so secular. And when you start talking about faith, some people just want to get away. No. You can't talk about that. But how did it affect you?
Well, I think it's the solid base on which you build everything and you make all your decision making in life and in your profession. And if you just follow those core thoughts and principles of treating others how you want to be treated, about servant leadership, of all that, and if you believe in all that and you're here to do service for others, and you approach your life that way and you approach your job and your profession, then that comes through. And you know, the best example is when you said, well, when you were the AD, I didn't have to worry about those things. Somebody else was taking care of it. And I felt that was my job to help you out and thus help your players out. And that was me doing something because I couldn't score a basket. Okay. And I wasn't going to guard somebody at the 3-point line. But if I could make it so that it was easier for you, so you're not worried about that and you're concentrating on your team, then that all goes back to, you know, what your beliefs are. And I'm not the most important person. Okay. I'm here to serve others. And so that's how I feel about it. You know, I was fortunate and grew up in a German Catholic family in, you know, north central Kansas, and those strong, you know, work ethic beliefs. You know, went to a Catholic grade school. I did not go to Catholic high schools. But then, you know, at KU, we started getting way away from that. I mean, we couldn't say Christmas. You know, we couldn't have Christmas trees on the campus in our offices and all that. And that was and that was towards the end of my career. And that was, well, I was kind of struggling with that. And then got back to Benedictine, and that was terrific. I mean, we were in particularly the environment that you know, President Minnis, you know, set up and embraces. And then I really fall in line with the monks and that ora et labora, you know, prayer and work. Yeah. And it's a simple, very simple concept, you know, and you know, they're trying to, the motto of Benedictine, educate people in a community of faith and scholarship, you know, so I buy into that completely. Yeah. And so I'd say that's where it formed it. I don't wear it on my sleeve. I don't, I try to lead by example on it, right? But I'm not one that verbalizes it because, right or wrong, you know, that's how it is. I want everybody to, you know, be a good person, lead your life the way you want it, but I'm not going to tell you how to do it. I'm going to show you how I'm going to do it. Okay. And hopefully that's good enough.
Well, that's true evangelization. I mean, evangelization isn't necessarily going out and preaching.
Hmm.
People watching you and going, wow, he's got something special. I wonder what that is, and then they figure it out.
Yeah.
So, and I always respected you for that. And that Benedictine, I mean, that's just the way it is.
Yes.
I don't know of anybody that's up there that's not that way.
Yeah. It's the culture and the environment. Yeah.
Yeah.
And leadership sets that tone.
Yeah. Yeah. And President Menace has just done an absolutely fantastic job of growing that college and sticking to the Catholic fundamental principles.
Yeah.
I don't know if we ought to get into this or not, but I know that Rockhurst with its Jesuits, again,
Well,
a little more safe.
Let's just say this. When I left Benedictine, one of the monks walked up and asked me, said, "Why are you leaving the Catholic Church to go be with the Jesuits?" And at the time, I didn't know what he meant. Now I get it. So, yeah, it is different. And philosophically, I'm much more mindset with the Jesuits, or I mean, with the Benedictines. But, I do see a difference with our players, because our student athletes, they know about if they want to succeed, they have to work hard, and there is that piece. So I try to instill that prayer and work philosophy, with them and do that. So,
in the positions that you've been in, and I talk about this in the book a lot, about being a coach is a very difficult career to follow, and I know being in athletic administration would be similar, especially at a place like KU. It's hard to be in a married environment in those situations, and not that you're going to be tempted to do things you shouldn't do. It's just simply you are so busy that you don't have as much time to spend with family,
right,
as you'd like to, or as maybe you shouldn't. And so,
right.
How do you see that position, and how do you attack that so that the family isn't shortchanged?
Right, and that is the most difficult thing, and we've, particularly in Division I college athletics, there isn't a very good work-life balance. And I told you my last year at KU, 48 of 52 weekends, I only had 4 that were both days off. So you're working those other weekends. Now, particularly my children growing up, there were a lot of trade-offs in that. My daughter was December 6th birthday. I was never home for her birthday because that first weekend in December was always the women's home basketball tournament. So that meant the men got scheduled on the roads. So here I am scheduling the men to be away from home. I'm scheduling myself to be away from home on my daughter's birthday. Okay. And that was how it was. Now, have that explanation and understand that. She also went to Hawaii 4 times before she was 12 years old. Okay. So there was the trade-off with some of that. And, I will tell you, to this day, one of the most gratifying memories that I have is at the 1991 Final Four. We were flying on the team plane and we each got to take one guest. Well, I took my son and he was in grade school. And I left Allen Fieldhouse and we were flying out of Topeka Forbes Field. And I drove by Quail Run Grade School and I walked to the door of his classroom and there was Scott sitting there with his jacket on, his backpack on the edge of his chair. And Scott was going on the team plane, the KU basketball team plane, to the Final Four. And all of his classmates knew it. And I picked him up and all of the class, they were all, "Oh, bye, Scott, have a great time." And I mean, it was the biggest deal. And he was the proudest kid, possible. And so you hope that there are thoughts and memories and moments like that make up for when Dad was gone, because he was also in Lubbock, Texas, on a Saturday night at a football game too, and getting home at 3 or 4 in the morning, I mean, so there are different things like that. So then the time you have to make quality time with them. Mm-hmm. Fortunately, they liked sports. They liked KU. They liked the opportunity that they kind of had free run of Allen Fieldhouse. They got to go to all the games. Coach Williams had every player and support staff over to his house for Thanksgiving. So there's my kids at Thanksgiving meal with the KU basketball team players, with Jared Haas and Jock Vaughn, and that was pretty big time stuff, and they like that. Yeah. So you've got to balance that, and your wife has to be unbelievably understanding. Ideally, she enjoys and appreciates sports. In my case with Deb, her dad, first generation college, because he got a football scholarship to come to KU and was on the football team. Okay. And so they then bought season tickets. She grew up with KU football. Her brother Brad played here. So KU and KU events, was all part of it. If you're in that job and your schedule, your life revolves around your schedule, your basketball team schedule. In my case, the KU athletic department schedule, that's your life. And you plan outside events and hopefully weddings, and you don't miss too many family deals and all that because of it, but that's how it is. I tell my players in golf, we're at a different deal. It's Division II. It's balance. We're going to balance your academics and your athletics, golf, and your social service. And when you've got that family wedding, that's a big deal for you to go to, and we've got a golf tournament, you're going to the family wedding, because 30 years from now, you're going to remember that. Mm-hmm. You're not going to remember being in Springfield, Illinois at, Prairie Fire Golf Course, mm-hmm. Doing that. Now, my player who did that, he went to San Diego for the wedding. He played Torrey Pines, and he got back, and I said, "Oh, wait a minute, you didn't tell me you were getting to play Torrey Pines." We might have had a little different discussion, but I want them to have the balance. I did not have that opportunity because of, KU basketball is playing, in the preseason NIT, and it's Thanksgiving weekend. I'm in New York City, and I'm not going to be at the family dinner. Now, we're going to make up for it on the weekend before, the weekend after, or something like that. But that's the piece of it that you've got to understand, and that's the balance that you try to do. And it doesn't work for everybody. Okay, it does not work for everybody. Yeah. So you've just got to hopefully find the right spouse, and then have enough great experiences with your kids that they understand the trade-off that they get for the job you have.
No, that's great. Share with us, if you would, some advice that you'd give to some career advice you'd give mm-hmm. to someone who wants to be a coach, or someone who maybe doesn't want to be a coach but has business type skills and wants to be an administrator in athletics.
Right. Well, like you, I've taught, and I also teach a class in human resources and personnel management, which I call the hiring and firing of coaches. So I guess the advice I look and I talk about in the search process, I want to apply to you and say, okay, well, how do I fit into that and all that? And so the first thing that I look for is I want to hire a quality person, because if I hire a good person, I've solved 90% of my problems. Okay. I want to hire somebody that's got great integrity, got great character, and then has a passion for what they're doing. I don't feel like I've ever gone to work. Okay. I get to do this. Yeah. I don't have to do this. Okay. And there's a good approach and analogy about that. So it's been a passionate thing for me. I want somebody that is going to represent the institution, and that's all inclusive, very, very well. So you're the basketball coach at Benedictine. You're representing yourself, your family, your team, your school. Okay. You're an alum of that school. Okay. So you want that. That's even more important to you. Okay. So I'm going to look for somebody that I know will be a really good representative of that school. Mm-hmm. Okay. What I'm, trying to do. You've got to be a hard worker. You've got to be very, very organized, I think, because these are complex jobs. I think training in athletic administration or coaching you can go out into almost any profession. You did it the opposite. You did the corporate world and then did the coaching. But the coaching world and all the balls you had in the air and all the things you had to juggle and all that would have served you very, very well in your job at Bell.
Yeah.
All the lessons you learned. The lessons of relationships and working with other people, of supervising people. You're the coach.
Yeah.
You're supervising those players. They're and then same kind of a deal. What motivates one kid doesn't motivate another kid.
Right.
What motivates one employee doesn't motivate another employee, and players that were just mailing it in. Okay. I mean, I kind of tell people, and I've got the luxury at Rockhurst with golf, we only play 5 and 4 count in the scoring, but I try to take 10 or so to tournaments. But I got 21 guys. I say, I got 7 or 8 guys, they're all in. And I got 3 or 4 guys, they're kind of half in, half out. And I got 3 or 4 guys, and they just like having a shirt that says Rockhurst Golf, And our purpose is that they come to school, get a great education, and graduate. That's our primary goal. My primary goal is not that we win golf tournaments. That's not what Rockhurst is set up for. Mm-hmm. So I'm okay with any of that, but you also then have to understand if you're in a supervisory role in a corporate situation, you got the same guys I got. I got guys you got employees who are all in, you got employees who they're kind of half in, half out. They're punching a time clock, and you got to deal with that, and figure that out and do all that. So I think those are the kind of things that I'm looking for in representing, being organized, being a hard worker, all those kind of qualities and characteristics.
Okay. It was interesting being in business first and then coaching, and it lended itself so well to me to be able to handle so many different hats because I had done that in business. With it, and Bell did a great job of training us to manage people. I don't know how many schools I went to and how many books you read and all that type of thing. And so the management part was pretty simple, and keeping balls up in the air was pretty simple because I'd done that before. What was difficult was for me, and as I say in the book, is dealing with 18 to 22-year-olds versus 18 to 65-year-olds,
Right.
And I mean, and there's just so many issues that come up in a coaching environment that don't come up in a business environment simply because the age of these kids. And plus you have a lot more opportunity to kind of guide these kids in the right direction, help form them. Whereas in a business environment, you don't have that many opportunities. And you do by your example, and the way you manage. But to really get in and change somebody's direction or change their life doesn't happen too often in business. Whereas in coaching, and I would think in an athletic administration would also do some of that.
Well, yeah, I tell the players, I've made most of my decisions. I have decided, how I'm going to live my life, what I'm doing on Friday and Saturday night. It's a routine. It's all that. You guys make 100 decisions every single day at 18 to 22, and they're consequential decisions. Mm. And you better have a pretty good basis of a checklist of going through. And I say, so when you're making that decision on Saturday night on whether to go out or not, and whether to go out driving and drinking, and, with the girlfriend or whatever, go through that checklist. I'm representing myself, my parents, my family, my golf teammates, my coach, my school, because all those things come back on that decision-making process, And if you'll look at it that way, hopefully when you're doing that checklist, that wouldn't reflect very good on mom or dad or my school, or if this happens, because as coaches, we've gotten the call. Hey, coach, I just got a DUI. Okay. And now how do we deal with that?
Right.
And you know, and the life lesson, did anybody get hurt? Well, no. Okay, first thing, that's great. Okay, now let's deal with the rest of it. But go through that process, and hopefully you won't put yourself in those situations.
Well, Richard, this has just been a treat for me having you.
Thanks, Joe.
I've loved our time together. I loved our time together before. I wish it would have extended much further than it did.
Well, it was just too far from Lawrence, Kansas, and the only other thing I'd say is I had such a hard time with the NAIA. I came from a Division I, very structured, big, thick rule book environment to one that had no rules. And one of the biggest things that ever occurred that really turned me off was when your team didn't get selected for the tournament that year.
Yeah.
Because I saw that was grossly unfair. As I recall, they selected a team from Florida because that team had a famous coach coaching it, Raleigh Massimino, and they had a much worse record, didn't do well. And we had done, I think, second in the conference, and had the 20 wins and were ranked, and it was just an automatic we were going to get in the tournament, and then we didn't. And I thought, oh boy, this is not a very good structure here, and I didn't like that.
Yeah.
And that was one of the biggest things. And then, but I will tell you, the commute up 59 highway up through Oskaloosa and Nortonville from Lawrence, because I didn't move to, and Deb was still at the phone company, and we weren't going to move to Atchison, and that just didn't work out. So I was trying to do it long distance, and, basketball game would end at 10 at night, and, I'd drive home to Lawrence. I mean, you were driving home too.
Yeah.
But you'd see 4 cars and 5 deers on the way home, and there was that 20-mile run of no cell phone coverage, through Nortonville, and it was kind of like, yeah, this might not be the best thing I'm doing, So anyway.
Well, it was great having you, and
Good. Well, thanks, Joe.
So glad that you've agreed to come on our podcast, and I think our folks are going to think this is just terrific. The Building with Brick podcast has a subtitle. It's Foundational Wisdom on Coaching Careers in Christ. And I think you fulfilled that just wonderfully today. So, Richard, thank you so much. I look forward to continuing a great relationship with you, and tell Deb I said hello, give her my love, and we'll see you soon.
Thanks, Joe.